What's up, everybody, and welcome once again to another edition of the Warren Hayes Show. I am the man whose name is in the title, Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you very much for joining me once again today on this review, this Raw review. For the past couple of weeks, I'm trying stuff out. I'm fairly new at this. I'm not. I don't have any pretense saying that that I know exactly how everything works and how everything should be perfectly executed and produced. For the past couple of weeks that I've been doing this, I've been doing my Raw and SmackDown reviews together. But I figured, I'll mix it up. I'll try something else. And this week, just a simple yet effective Raw review, just for last night's Raw, which was on June 18, 2018. And just a quick note, man, what a weekend of WWE programming we had. And I don't want to spend any extra time talking about the pay-per-views that we just saw over the weekend, because this isn't a pay-per-view review. But we had on Saturday, we had TakeOver Chicago, NXT TakeOver Chicago 2. And in my prediction video, which you could still watch if you want to see how well I fared and how ridiculous I sounded ultimately, as far as a couple of matches went. I had the gall to say that NXT TakeOver Chicago 2 wouldn't necessarily over-deliver as opposed to some of the other takeovers that we saw. But man, I mean, the opening match, the Undisputed Era versus Lorcan and Birch, I mean, that was the very definition of over-delivering. Those guys didn't need to put on the match that they did. That was amazing. One of the best tag team matches I have seen in months. That was fantastic. And then, of course, you had Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, who put on another classic and another great chapter in their storyline, which I thought was going to end. I was like, I said in my predictions, I think it's about time for both these guys to move on to bigger, better things. But no. We're still going at it, and they convinced me that I wanted more. I didn't necessarily want more, but we're getting more, and I'm very happy about that. And you had Dream and Velveteen Dream and Ricochet, who had a fantastic match. Shayna Baszler and Nikki Cross. That was another great storytelling match. There was a lot of beautiful story being told there. Great character development. And, if this was Nikki Cross's send-off, man, I couldn't imagine a better way for her to go. And then you had Aleister Black versus Lars Sullivan. It wasn't a bad match. I mean, there were no bad matches on the card. There was nothing terrible. There was nothing... It was good. It was a fantastic card. It went above what I was expecting. And then the next night we had Money in the Bank, which was, a very uneven show. But as I said, and this is basically what turned out, what was good was really good, and what was not meant to be good was very flat. It was, that's for what it was. I mean, wow, Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey was something I did not expect. I said that I was hoping that both of them would look good. Nia brought her A game. She was really fantastic. And I am completely fine with Alexa Bliss. Cashing in, winning the Money in the Bank ladder match, which I had predicted. And cashing in later on in the evening, I thought that was fantastic. Adds that air of unpredictability that we as wrestling fans really love. But as far as results go, I was convinced Shinsuke Nakamura was going to win the title, and I think that was the good. I think that would have been the good move. That's what needed to be done. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see on Tuesday how they handle this. And Braun Strowman was the guy who benefits least from the Money in the Bank briefcase. every other guy in that match could have benefited much more. I thought it should have gone to either Samoa Joe or Kevin Owens. Samoa Joe was my official prediction, but I think Kevin Owens could have done such a fantastic job with that. But anyway, I think it was a good pay-per-view. I enjoyed Money in the Bank. And don't get me wrong, I'm not crapping all over everything. I just, I'm questioning some booking decisions, which is fine. I think as fans, we can do that, when things don't exactly jive or you don't quite see where they're going. And I'm just questioning how this is going to go. But I mean, we still have time to readjust. Having a little trouble with my mic again. Sorry, guys. This is terrible. Anyway, so we had a great weekend of WWE programming. It was a lot of fun. And this led into a Monday Night Raw, the June 18 edition, 2018, from Grand Rapids, Michigan. An edition of Monday Night Raw, which, well, I hadn't been this excited or looking forward to a Raw. Let me temper my expectations a little. Outside of the Raw after WrestleMania, it had been a while since I was looking forward to a Raw. And last night, because I'm taping this on the Tuesday morning on the 19th, last night got me in a good vibe about Raw. I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do. And I thought it was a good Raw. It was not about the matches. It was about the stories. And that's good. That was great because that's kind of what happened at Money in the Bank. This explosion of situations and of storylines, of angles, new stuff, new possibilities. This is what we needed to get into. We needed to get into the meat of the situation, and this is kind of what we got. I was very, very satisfied with Raw last night, especially the first 45 minutes. Let's get into it. Right, so the show opens with the results of the Money in the Bank women's ladder match, and talking about Nia and Ronda, Alexa's cash in, basically the women's angle, and that's because the opening segment has Kurt Angle in the ring with both the Money in the Bank briefcase and the Raw women's title. That are set up on a table. And Kurt says, he's very happy because the Raw superstars won both Money in the Bank briefcases, brought the contracts over to Raw. Why is he happy about that? There's no real stakes to it. Is it really bragging rights between him and Paige? I don't know. This mysterious ongoing competitiveness between Raw and SmackDown where there's really no stakes, there's nothing they're really fighting for, it's still not working for me. So he invites Alexa Bliss to join him in the ring to claim her title, and she cuts a promo. Before that, actually, the announced team, was it Kurt or was it anyway, they announced that it doesn't matter. They announced that Nia Jax is doing physical therapy, and so she's not at Raw, and I'm wondering why. And that she invoked her rematch clause, and she's going to get a rematch for the Raw Women's title against Alexa Bliss at Extreme Rules. So we're getting another one of those. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Other than anyway, we'll get into it in a second. So Alexa's in the ring. She does the sincerity swerve again, saying, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to rub it in all your faces. We want Ronda chants in the audience, which is good. This is the kind of reaction WWE wants, and she calls Ronda. Alexa calls Ronda and Nia bullies. Ronda's music hits. She comes to the ring and she's not smiling. That was refreshing. And I don't mind. I don't mind when baby faces smile. I just find everyone smiles too much, and Ronda smiles a little too much. This was good. I like this. Alexa taunts Ronda as Kurt keeps her as Kurt keeps Ronda at bay. He keeps her aside. And Alexa drives home. You don't understand the differences between UFC and WWE. What I did last night was completely legal here in WWE, which is not, because it wouldn't have forced a DQ like it did. It's not legal, but Alexa's being the heel, so that's fine. And to be honest, I'm a little tired of this. Ronda doesn't understand the rules in WWE. Ronda has been a legit wrestling fan for most of her life, and she's competing in WWE. She has to know the rules. Like, I understand what they're going for, to say there is a whole different set of rules here that maybe you're not used to. Now, that would win me over, and that could be worked really well into storylines, instead of everyone pushing on the fact that, there's stuff here that you can't do in NXT, but you don't know that because you're an MMA fighter. But in the wrestling world, oh, Nelly baby, she knows this by now, and she's a wrestling fan. She's a student of the game, and she improves. She gets better. Her performance at Money in the Bank was great. She knows what she's doing. If they were presenting this in a way where it's more like Ronda still isn't used to these tactics, I'd buy it. But just flat out saying, you don't get all the rules here, it's doing Ronda a disservice. So basically, yeah, Alexa says, you're pissed because the headlines last night were about me, and she starts name dropping websites that had interviews with her. She says, I'm going to flat out say it, you're irrelevant, you're an overhyped rookie. And I think I tweeted at that point right there, I think I tweeted out that Alexa is pandering to the smarks. Some Ronda haters. Ronda, that was enough. Ronda had enough at that point. She goes after Alexa, starts beating her up. Kurt tries to interfere again, but she takes out Kurt with an amazing hip toss. There's the judo we keep hearing about. Wow. I mean, Kurt flipped, and it was beautiful, beautifully executed. She goes back over to Alexa to beat her up with the briefcase. She grabs the briefcase and she starts beating Alexa up with it. Then she goes after Kurt and starts beating Kurt up with the briefcase. Those were some really weak shots. It didn't look good. Kurt was trying to sell it. I don't know. It's as if Ronda was like, why is my character doing this right now? It doesn't make sense. And it didn't quite make sense. Well, it did make sense because Ronda had it up to here like she was. I know. Refs come in. She beats up the refs. And she ends up putting Alexa through a table. So that's why Alexa didn't take any bumps on Sunday night. So that she could take this one table bump. Oh, I'm being facetious. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me half as much as it bothered most of you. So there you go. We go backstage, and Kurt is talking with Ronda, and he tells her, you don't get it, Ronda. You're not supposed to do this thing. You can't beat me up. You can't beat up officials. I'm suspending you for 30 days. Whoa! Back from commercial, Renee is backstage, and she tries to get a reaction from Ronda, and Ronda's just pacing away. And Renee says, well, good luck, Ronda. That gets to Ronda, and she goes around and says, save your good luck for Alexa Bliss, because when I come back in a month, she's dog meat. Well, she didn't say dog meat, but man, that would have been funny. Would have been funny, I'm going to kick her ass. She did. Do you think she got away with saying ass, or did she get an earful? So, dog meat. I would pop large for any wrestler who made that their catchphrase or just used it in a promo at some point. You're dog meat, man. Woo, man. We're back in the ring. Burn it down. And Seth Rollins comes out. He's in a good mood. He's feeling good. See, there's buzz in the locker room. He says, I think we should keep it going. And why don't we keep this Intercontinental Open Challenge going? And everyone's down with that. And who answers the challenge? Well, Dolph Ziggler's music hits. And Dolph comes out. Then Drew McIntyre's music hits. And Drew comes out. And there's a moment there where you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a second. Who's gonna answer this challenge? I thought that was nice. It was Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins in the shocker of the evening. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Did you see this coming? Audience member who is currently watching? I didn't. I don't think anyone, aside from those who had access to the script, no one saw this one coming. And that's good. This was a good television match. I thought it was a good television match. It delivered very well. I think the first half was a whole lot of nothing, but then towards the end, things really started to pick up. You know, Dolph is super aggro in this match, and I like reignited Dolph Ziggler. And this is good. I like this. This is fun. You know, I like my wrestlers when my wrestlers are happy and enjoying what they're doing because it shows in the ring. You can see it. It translates into everything they do after that in the ring and makes everything so much better. Oh, there's all the usual moves, the sling blade, super kicks. There was this really crazy looking spot that happened during the commercial that they showed on replay where Seth has Dolph up in a suplex and he seems to lose his balance. It's probably planned, I don't think it was a botch, but he loses his balance off a suplex and both guys flip over the top rope and onto the mat. Like, woo! That was spooky crazy. Ripcord knee on Dolph. Seth misses a stomp. Dolph hits the famouser, but Seth kicks out. Dolph sets up the super kick. He misses, but Seth hits 2 consecutive super kicks. Still can't get the pin. Seth goes to the top rope to hit a frog splash on Dolph. Dolph rolls out of the way. Dolph goes to the top rope. Seth counters twice to try and get a superplex. Can't get it done. But Dolph comes off with a crossbody, flying crossbody, but Seth catches him and rolls through into a buckle bomb. That was really cool. Seth is a strong dude, man. At the end, super kick by Seth. Drew interferes. Ziggler covers, leads into a couple of roll-ups. Seth tries to use the tights like he did at Money in the Bank. Doesn't work. Gets countered by Dolph, who holds onto the tights as well. And Dolph Ziggler is your new Intercontinental Champion. I'm happy about this. I'm happy about this for 2 reasons. Because I think Dolph is doing fantastic work right now. And I think he's being booked properly. So you might as well get the most out of it. I'm really intrigued to see where they're going to go with this storyline-wise. And what this means is that Seth is free to do other things. Isn't that interesting? After the match, Dolphin Drew. I'm sorry. What was that? Dolphin Drew hit the zigzag claymore just to punctuate and let us know that this feud isn't over. This is only the beginning. And you know, I just before recording this morning, I tweeted out a picture of Shawn Michaels with the Intercontinental Championship with Diesel standing next to him, and you know, basically saying congratulations to Dolph Ziggler winning the IC title. I mean, when we first saw Dolph and Drew together a couple of weeks ago, well, after they debuted on the Raw after WrestleMania, we were like, wow, okay. This is really Shawn Michaels. This is Shawn Michaels and Diesel. But now, this is really Shawn Michaels and Diesel. And I don't mind, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be vicious about this. It's not a question of him. I'm not saying this because I feel like he's coasting off someone else's success or they're copying something. Look, if you're going to emulate a formula, a big man, smaller guy duo, if you're going to emulate, it might as well be Shawn Michaels and Diesel because that legit worked, right? That was a legit combo that everyone bought into and was super successful for both guys. So I'm okay with this. I mean, I'm just poking fun. Backstage, Renee talks to Dolph and he says Monday Night Rollins is canceled and there's no reboot coming, so there's no reason to go online and cry about it. I thought that was interesting. Bobby Roode versus Kurt Hawkins, who's at 203-0 according to the announce team. Make it 204-0. This was a Roode squash match. Kurt Hawkins with a fantastic sell of the glorious DDT, and that's about it. There's nothing really more else to say aside from what are they going to do with Bobby Roode from this point on. If a heel turn is not in his, maybe have him feud with Dolph. Didn't we see that on SmackDown when he was US champ? No, we didn't. Well, kinda. No, wait. What did Dolph win the belt off of? It was a multi-man match at Clash of the Champions. Can't quite remember. Anyway. Back from commercial, we have the recap of the Money in the Bank men's ladder match. And why? Well, because Braun comes out. By the way, this was the first 44, just to punctuate, just before we get into Braun here. This was the first 45 minutes of Raw. So we had an excellent opening segment that got me fired up for Ronda and her eventual title win, probably at SummerSlam. And then a really good match that ended with a shocker. This was a really good first 45 minutes of Raw. I was psyched. And then they bring Braun out. And did you notice his smile when he came in with the briefcase? Man, that guy can be so earnest. You know, you keep hearing stories that Braun is such a nice guy and he's got his heart on his sleeve, and look, he goes in the ring, people are chanting for him, or they're happy that he won the briefcase, and he just takes a moment, looks around at the crowd, and his smile is just so sincere and real. That made me feel good. He says, I won a trophy, and he starts cutting a promo, and I like the part where he says, I won a trophy in Saudi Arabia by tossing men around like bean bags. I love that guy. And he ends up calling out Brock. Well, that's good. Kevin Owens music hits. Glad to see Kevin's not dead after that bump last night. I don't know why they're having him working. Why Nia Jax gets the night off and he doesn't after that crazy ass bump he took. Money in the Bank. Kevin clears his throat and he's selling his injuries so well, right? Uh, I'm broken tonight. I'm not here to wrestle. Look, I can't do this tonight. I can't make this happen. He says he knew Braun would win. Nobody listened to his plans, but he hopes that Braun will listen to him, and he basically, pleads his case to Braun, saying, you know what, man, you have a target on your back, you have this incredible opportunity, but you have to be smart about it. Who's watching our back? In fairness, you didn't need anyone so far, but last night your life changed. Maybe, and this is where Kevin Owens is so great. He started tying in old storylines into this angle here, where he starts talking about, I had my friend Sami Zayn, but now he's not there. He's so good. Like, making sense of everything that happened, bringing it into this situation. This is why Kevin Owens' character is so good, because everything he does is consequential. He really has a path that you can follow, and everything makes sense. And on top of that, he's saying here, he says, both of us are in need of a friend. Well, maybe friend is too strong of a word, but maybe we can help each other out. No. Maybe we could use each other. Let's just call it like it is. And we've said this before, and I think this is a bit of a consensus, but back on SmackDown, when he was feuding with Shane McMahon, when he and Sami were feuding with Shane McMahon, Kevin works best when he is a heel that makes sense. And it's and I think I even mentioned this last week on my review, and I think I mentioned it. Anyway, it was the same thing. It's the same thing now. When he starts making sense, he becomes the most effective heel, because you dislike this guy. He's cagey, he's dishonest, he's a backstabber, but everything he says is real, it's true, it rings true, and it makes sense. He says we could use each other, monster and man. But Braun won't have anything of it. He grabs KO and tosses him over his shoulder, and Kevin wiggles out. Does he? Yeah, I think so. Forget, but Kevin avoids a beatdown, and he's a bit disappointed that this didn't work out. Yeah, personally, I kind of hope this will evolve into a match between Braun and KO at Extreme Rules, because Braun and KO work really, really, really well together. I want them to have a program. And this was one of the reasons why I didn't necessarily want Braun to have the briefcase and Kevin to hang on to it for a little while, because having them, I would have liked both of these guys to have an extended program. They really have good chemistry. They understand each other. KO can do a super job to put this guy over even more. He'll make the monster come alive. But since Braun has the briefcase, then Braun is going to focus on the Universal title. If Kevin had the briefcase, Kevin can do whatever the hell he wants. When a heel has it, it seems to me you don't have to focus as much on the title picture. You can still go off and do whatever you want and be an idiot whenever you want. And that was a good segment. I liked it. It worked for me. Backstage, we have Bayley and Sasha. Bayley comes in to console Sasha, who's replaying the Money in the Bank women's ladder match over and over in her mind. Says it's not going to help you if you just sit here and sulk. Sasha says, "You're right, Bayley, and we have I have a match, or we have a match. There's a match against the Riot Squad later on. They decide to work together. They hug it out. Man." We'll talk about this a little later again. The Leaders of Worlds versus Slater and Rhino. Aside from the cute little moment with Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, who are dressed up as Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, there wasn't much happening here. Bo Dallas basically dressing up as his brother was pretty funny, and at first you could tell that Bray was getting a kick out of it. And Bo Dallas, it was even fedora. He even had a nice little flowery fedora. You know, if this doesn't translate into a Hardy compound match, it's a missed opportunity. This would be really, really fun. Can you imagine Dallas and Axel in the Hardy compound? It's a perfect fit. They'd be overwhelmed and frightened, and it would be really, really good. This has to be the blow-off for this feud. Oh, right, and Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy defeated Slater and Rhino in basically an okay match, but there's not much to say about it. Next, we have Jinder Mahal, who comes out with Sunil Singh, who's still wearing a neck brace for some reason. That's hilarious. He has a mic. That's when you realize that Chad Gable got a jobber entrance. Mahal says that last night he felt the winds of change. I have won the battle of self-improvement. Just like Roman is bitter and angry, I have found tranquility. He's committed to change, unlike Chad Gable, who is caught in his former glory days as an amateur wrestler. Let the past behind you and find Shandy. Shandy. I forget how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. Again, not much of a match here. Putting over this new chapter in Jinder's character's development. Jable hits Jable. If Jinder and Gable ever become a tag team, you know they're going to be called Jable. Gable hits at some point a big gut wrench suplex on Jinder Mahal, and it's the kind of thing where you're like, where it's these little moves that always remind you that Chad Gable is awesome and is not getting the type of push that he merits. He hits the moonsault on Jinder, but it ends with a coloss. Gable loses. Jinder wins. Backstage, the Riot Squad are causing havoc again. They're throwing things around. They're shoving equipment. They grab a guy's laptop and smash it. Man. Sarah Logan. Are you anti-technology? That leads us into the match where we have Sasha and Bayley versus Liv and Logan. Liv Morgan and Logan. Sarah Logan. Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan. I'll get through this. The commentary is putting over hard the friendship thing with Sasha and Bayley. But like, they're like driving this one there. They're like pushing. What's that on my fingers? Oh, yeah. I cut myself. Yeah, again, you know, not much of a match, but it was a story that was being told here. The one where Bayley and Sasha just couldn't get on the same page, and their timing was out of whack. So not only were they jockeying to always try and get into the ring, but when they needed each other, they were lacking in communication. Just that intangible chemistry that exists between two tag team partners, it just wasn't there. I thought Sasha's offense looked tight tonight. And this is an unpopular opinion, I think, but I found in the past few weeks that Sasha's offense looked very soft. It didn't look crisp, and she can do better. This wasn't, I didn't care for what she was doing much. But last night on Raw, in this match, I found she was very, very, she had a fire. There was something going on. So that's good. At some point, Liv avoids a backstabber and sidekicks Sasha to the head. And, well, that's actually the pin. That's how Liv gets the pin. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, so there's, so basically, no wait, the end comes with a double, no, that's not it. The end comes with a double team from the Riot Squad on Sasha. I'll take better notes next week. The end comes with a double team from the Riot Squad on Sasha. Liv gets the pin with the tights, and then things break apart. Sasha starts shoving Bayley. Bayley is sick of it. Sasha pushes her aggressively down to the mat, and she walks away. I'm going to talk about this in just a second. Kurt and we go backstage where Kurt and Baron Corbin are reviewing notes because apparently there's a big announcement coming up, and they're reviewing notes, and Corbin is striking stuff out. You know, he's like, no, and he gives it back to Kurt, and Kurt's like, you know, Baron Corbin is in a really good role for himself. Good for Baron. Now we're back from commercial. Sasha and Bayley are arguing, and Bayley goes right for her. They start fighting, and what? It's a brawl. You know, Bayley says, she says, "I'm not finished with you." She's channeling her inner Braun Strowman, and they brawl. They just fight each other. Now, you know, a lot of people online keep saying, trying, especially maybe to convince maybe themselves, you know, that there's a will they, won't they situation with Bayley and Sasha, you know. But there is no will they, won't they. We're back at the same spot that we were a few months ago before WrestleMania, after Elimination Chamber, where they've had they've had this locker room brawl before. They've had this shoving match before. This isn't story progression. This is rehashing. And at this point, they really have to get this over with. Or there has to be like a legit surprise event, like Sasha Banks joining the Riot Squad because she's tired of hanging out with losers, like Bayley maybe. I don't know. But something has to happen here. This has not been a good example of good storytelling. This is an example of typical WWE storytelling where they start pushing something, then they pull the reins on it because they don't know exactly how to make it fit anymore. Then they give it some loose, or whatever you do when you ride a horse and go, you know, yeah. They give it what it needs to get back into the spotlight, but it feels exactly like the same thing that we've been seeing. So this is not a will they, won't they situation. This is really like it's a dud at this point. And it's a shame. So if they focus on reigniting this feud for the umpteenth time over the next couple of weeks, if they focus on doing that, then holy smokes, they have to do it, and they have to do it properly. They really have to do it properly this time. So Kurt is in the ring saying that WWE officials have made a decision as to when Brock Lesnar will defend the Universal title. But the question is against who? And before he can say another word, Roman's music hits. He didn't let Kurt finish. Now, he comes out and he says, I'm entitled to this. This is my championship. And, Brock didn't beat me, and his feet hit first, and all that. But the sad reality of this, like if we're being real here, he interrupted Kurt. Maybe Kurt Angle was about to say, Yeah, we just have to decide who. And you know what? I've thought about it. And I think Roman Reigns should challenge Brock Lesnar for the title. But Roman immediately was like, yeah, no. It's my turn. He was immediately in victim mode. Like, what? No. That's terrible. That's terrible judgment on your part, Roman. Let the man finish. So Kurt says basically, Roman says, he beat Brock. Basically the same thing he's been saying for weeks now. I still don't know why Roman is still considered a contender at this point, but that's a whole other story. He says he says, I didn't quite understand the logic here. He says, he tells Kurt, you're having trouble managing, the Raw, the show tonight. You're having trouble managing Raw. It's chaos, all sorts of stuff going on. If you had a champion who defend the title every Monday, the Universal title every Monday night, that would help you out. And I was like, why? How? How does that help Kurt manage Monday Night Raw? I don't understand the logic. Bobby Lashley comes out fresh off of defending the honor of his sisters at Money in the Bank. He says, I can beat Brock Lesnar and I can also beat you, Roman Reigns. And that's when Kurt announces that there's going to be a multi-person match at Extreme Rules, and the winner of that match will get a shot at Brock Lesnar's title at SummerSlam, probably. And at that point, the Revival come out and and they're basically catering to the smarks. People like me. Basically saying, you two, talking about Bobby and Roman, you two ask for opportunities and you get them. Whereas us, we work for our opportunities. We work so hard. And we're the best tag team in the world. And that sets up an impromptu match, which was, again, an interesting story. Because basically the story here was basically Roman and Bobby Lashley having a pissing contest to see who was better than the other. Whereas you had the Revival, who are legit tag team specialists, using tactics to try and get one up on their opposition. I thought it was good storytelling. Roman's leg top guillotine looks pretty good. That's pretty damn good. I like it. That's a fun move. The match comes to an end when Roman sets himself up to go to the spear, but Lashley tags himself in and he goes for the spear and gets the pin. Oh my God, the spear is Roman's move. Thought I heard people tell me that, I think people told me that Bobby Lashley's finisher in TNA was the spear. Actually makes sense that he goes back to it. Anyway, I like what they're setting up with Bob Lashley and Ro Reigns. That's how their friends refer to them as. I like this storyline. I think this is interesting where they're going with this. Might actually get Lashley over if they do this right. Who knows? This would actually be, when you think about it, if they wanted Lashley to get over, this would be the perfect time then. The perfect time for Roman to turn heel. This is a pipe tree. All right, so backstage we have Corbin and Kurt who are talking. Finn's there too. He tells Kurt that he's ready to do anything to get into that Extreme Rules match. Corbin mocks Finn. KO comes over to tell Finn that he's had enough opportunities, that doesn't need any more. Finn says something to the effect that KO doesn't know when danger is right behind him, and the camera just pans out a bit. Zooms out, not pans out. Well, it didn't pan out, but it did a bit. And there's Braun Strowman standing right there, who says that he's looking out for his little buddy Finn. For his buddy Finn. He didn't say little. For his buddy Finn. Kurt Corbin and KO all storm off, and this sets up a match. The main event, Finn and Braun versus KO and Corbin. We have No Way Jose versus Mojo Rawley. Listen, I've never been a Mojo guy, and I have no reasons to begin now. Sorry. This wasn't much of a match again. I don't think there was even much of a story, aside from establishing the fact that Mojo used to be known for staying hyped. Now he's going to be known as staying focused. The Focus Bros has a little less zing to it. And then we have another backstage segment with Sasha, who's sulking and heading over to her car. Bayley comes to confront her. Sasha is blocking her out, doesn't want anything to do with her, goes into her car. Bayley tries to get her attention and throws a bottle at the rental car. That's coming out of your paycheck. The insurance is coming out of your paycheck, Bayley. Elias is in the ring, sporting a disheveled, unkempt look, further unkempt. His hair loose, and he pulls out another complete song, and a good one. A really good one. You know what? I thought when Elias debuted last year that he was a bit like Honky Tonk Man, where, you know, Honky Tonk Man tried to pass himself off as this great musician performer, but he couldn't play. He couldn't play guitar. He couldn't do it. So I thought that Elias, you know, he'd strum a few bars and it was like, oh, okay, he has basic understanding, like how to pull a couple of chords, but, you know, he's no musician. But at this point, I'm like, wow, okay. Like, it's not mind-blowing. It's not like, wow, you know, he's the next coming of Zakk Wylde. Nothing like that. And he's not an incredible guitar player, but he's solid. He's capable. He's talented, and he can write. This is good. Good stuff. So what would Elias do, basically, was the question here. And what will Elias do? He'll probably be in the Extreme Rules match. We have an interview with Seth backstage with Renee. He says he finds it hard, but there's no excuses. He opened the challenge. Dolph won, and he's calling for his rematch next week. And he says Drew is a problem, and one I'll have to solve before next week. Can I have a moment to fantasy book here? Sure I can, because it's my show. Next week, so Drew's a problem because he runs interference. So Seth needs someone in his corner, right? Right. Seth has a few friends in an organization once known as The Shield. So maybe he could ask Roman to come over. But since Roman is in the first stages of a feud with Bobby Lashley, or at least a disagreement, I don't think bringing him into this context here with Dolph and Drew, who are a unit, who are a team, not a tag team anymore, obviously. They're two single guys who look out for each other. They're a team. So I don't think adding Roman into this mix will do Roman any good. But who's waiting in the wings, right? Now, you know, who was at the Performance Center last week, training, or anyway, we don't know exactly what he was doing, but he was at the Performance Center, Dean Ambrose. So what if Seth gets his buddy Dean Ambrose to come make sure that Drew doesn't act up, you know? You can have a non-finish here. You know, this can easily turn into a cluster, setting up a tag team match at Extreme Rules between Dolph and Drew and Dean and Seth. That would be fantastic. Add in a little stip there, you know, something like that. And then the inevitable happens, something that everyone wants to see happen, and which makes a lot of sense. Dean Ambrose turns on Seth Rollins at Extreme Rules, setting up a big feud at SummerSlam between the two former Shield members. Two former best friends. I think that would work. It would put Seth and Dean in a high-profile match. Both of them would be in a high-profile match, which could be a trampoline then for, again, bigger and better things. This is how I'd book the next few months, at least over the next couple of pay-per-views, with Dean and Seth and Dolph and Drew. We'll see if it happens. But you could also have Dean just come back next week, surprise out of the crowd, and actually cost Seth the match. That could also be a possibility. We'll see. Maybe Jason Jordan. Jason Jordan, I think, is cleared to return. We don't know when that. The main thing here, the situation here is that we don't know if Dean Ambrose is officially cleared to return to the ring. He was at the Performance Center last week. Was he rehabbing? Was he training? That it's not clear, but he was at the PC last week. So, if he's not cleared, it's inevitable at this point. It's close. So that's how I'd do it. Main event is Finn and Braun versus Finn and Braun versus Corbin and KO. Corbin is wrestling in his sleeveless vest and shirt. He's basically he's dressing as a fancy man. He's the new Jack Gallagher, the new old Jack Gallagher. And KO basically, I love him the entire match, and he's like, I can't wrestle. I'm not cleared. I don't feel good. And again, this just adds to Kevin Owens' character, right? Where he's like, they're forcing me to wrestle when I'm clearly injured and in no shape to perform. And he's right. Anyway, I've talked about this. We'll move along. This was fine. This was fine. I like the spot where Braun clotheslined both Owens and Corbin out of the ring, and Braun tags Balor in and power lifts Finn over his head and tosses him onto the heels outside. That was pretty cool. Baron Corbin was ignited last night. That was really cool. And he put in most of the work. Excuse me. He put in most of the work for his team, which is normal which is expected, I should say, because Kevin was supposed to be injured, right? But he put in a lot of work last night, which was really good. Good moments, you know. Braun at some point chases KO outside the ring, but Corbin hits a flying shoulder off the apron right onto Braun. He was on. Look, I really liked Corbin's performance last night. Braun gets his obligatory hitting the post spot, which he has to do every match. Braun does the shoulder tackle on KO through the barricade on the outside. Always a fun spot, and another reason why these two guys need to feud. They need to feud. I want them to have an extended program. These guys are really good together. But it ends with the end of days inside the ring. Baron Corbin hits the 1-2-3 on Finn Balor. The Balor Stan accounts explode with rage all over Twitter. But man, what a showing by Baron Corbin. That was really, really good. It was a fun show. It was a fun show. It wasn't about the wrestling last night. Last night was about storylines. And it felt, don't you find it felt like a reset last night? A reset that we usually get around WrestleMania, but last night, Raw felt like we're wiping away what's being done. We're starting anew. Here are the new directions. This is what you can expect over the summer. I liked it. I'm looking forward to next week. This should be good. It's interesting. Still no Authors of Pain. And I don't understand. I really don't understand. There's a rumor going around that Authors of Pain and Sanity were called up because they wanted tag teams to fill out the projected Money in the Bank tag team ladder match that they were thinking of doing, but then they pulled that idea. And that's a shame. So now Authors of Pain are in a situation where there's nothing to do. And the tag team division on Raw is in a bit of a mess. It's not good. But as for Sanity, as I said, I'm taping this on Tuesday morning. And Sanity is actually announced for the SmackDown preview tonight, as well as they're facing the Usos. That'll be their first match. So at least they're going ahead with Sanity, which is good. That makes me happy. But the tag team division on SmackDown is far superior than Raw right now. And Raw is the show that has 3 hours. It's not working for me, man. It's not working for me. Well, that was it. That's it. That's my review of Raw on June 18. What did you guys think? Huh? Did you like it? You think it was good? Let me know. You can leave a comment here on YouTube. Why don't you come find me on Twitter, Mr. Warren Hayes? That's actually the best place if you want to have some wrestling chit chats with me, or just have me give you a thumbs up or an emoji thing. That's where I love to do the things. The things where you talk with people. What do they call? Conversations. That's what's fun. Come and find me on Twitter. There's other places that you can find me on Twitter. You can other places you can find me on Twitter. Yeah, I have 17 burn accounts. There are other places you can find me as well as Twitter and YouTube, such as Periscope. On Wednesday nights, I have a tendency to get online after NXT and do a live review. You can come and we chit chat, and it's a lot of fun. Why don't you come do that too? That's really cool. And soon I will be doing and I also contribute occasionally to Fightful.com for their premium service, FightfulSelect.com, because premium guy goes to the premium service. I did a Sean Ross Sapp and we did a retro review of WCW Great American Bash 1996 a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be taping very, very soon a new retro review, this time for ECW Hardcore Heaven 95. So that's going to be something, because, man, Hardcore Heaven 95. Anyway, I don't want to spoil anything. You can sign up to the service. Give it a try. Give it a whirl. There's lots of great content there, including more chances to see my face. You can come back and see me tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll have my my SmackDown review up. And yeah, that's about it for today. Guys, gals, friends, pals, thank you very much for sticking to the very end here. Leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel. Why don't you? Leave a thumbs up. Do all that stuff. And you know what? I'll see you next time.